Hello, everybody. Excited utterance here. My name's Hella, and today we're doing Shanna Gardner. Oh dear, Shanna Gardner. She has been taken over to Florida, back to Florida where she lived, and she is having a bond hearing today. Well, actually, it's not today. It was a little while ago, a week or two ago, and we are revisiting it. We're going to be watching it over the next couple of days. It was about 6 hours of bond hearing. We're going to be having a look at the direct examination today, and it's going to be super juicy. There are text messages, guys. There are text messages. All right. Hello, Flash Fan 85. I'm pretty good today. How are you? And Psycho Dolls, it's good to see you too back again. Hey, and Chinny, how are you? Dancing ladies. Yeah, I had a bit of a dance on the weekend. It was nice to get back to dancing and DJing too. So a little bit of dancing and DJing. Nice, nice, nice. And Christine, hey, chat and EU, I'm going to be working later on. If they're going to watch on replay. That's nice of you, Christine. Cool. And I think we're going to have Dali's chat coming in here in a moment. So for those of you who aren't aware of the Shanna Gardner case, Shanna Gardner is a millionairess from Florida. Well, actually, originally hailing from Utah. So she is LDA, LDS, LDS, Church of the Latter-day Saints, as are a lot of people that hail from Utah. I don't know how much that plays into this case, though. People talk a lot about, the LDS church and people who come from the LDS church and the whole influence of the LDS church and the families. But I'm not really sure whether or not that has a lot to do with this. She married this man called Gardner Bridegan early on, and they had two lovely children. They had twins. And then the marriage went sour about 5 years later. So they got divorced and there was a nasty custody battle. And this went on for sort of 5 or so years. She remarried to a lovely fella, and they lived nearby in Jacksonville in Florida. And then he remarried to a lady called Kirsten, and they had 2 other children. Now, apparently the custody arrangement, the back and forth thing, wasn't very friendly, and there is apparently things in evidence of her thinking that she wanted to hire a hitman to get rid of the father. That's what we're going to be looking at today. So there is a bond hearing because what happened was Mr. Bridegan one day was coming back from dropping off the twins to Miss Shanna Gardner, and there was a tire in the middle of the road. He gets up out of the car to move the tire, and bang, bang, Mr. Bridegan is gone. Now, a man has already pleaded guilty to the shooting. His name is Henry Tenon, I believe, and he has taken a plea deal to testify against Ms. Gardner and her new husband for organizing the hit. Now, Ms. Gardner and her husband are co-defendants in this case, and they are facing the death penalty. She is represented by the one and only Jose Baez, which is very exciting. And they are going to be, I believe now their cases are bifurcated. They were going to be tried together, but their bond hearing is what we're going to be having a look at today. So let's get into it, guys. Hi, I just want to say hello to a couple of people. Hey, Chinny. Yeah, I don't see any connection to LDS either. Some people have been sort of trying to draw some connection to it, but I don't think LDS had anything to do with the alleged hit. She is the heiress to the Stampin Up company, so people are right on to that. Oh my God, the heiress, the Stampin' Up company, could be facing the death penalty. Hey, Ronnie, how are you? Scrapbooks cake. Cool. Yes, Sally Raid, and hello, Laura. How are you? Good to see you. Okay, let's get into it. So I also had a message from the lovely Steve Gosney the other day after I started covering this, saying that not only is she being represented by Jose Baez, she's also being represented by someone who Steve calls the best defense attorney I've ever been around. Imagine that. The best defense attorney I've ever been around. And her name is Rosemary Peoples. Now, Rosemary Peoples, I believe, also represented Aiden Fucci. Aiden Fucci, the young boy who was convicted of stabbing the little young cheerleader. Very, very sad. 114 times in Florida. And yes, she must be a great attorney. Now, she's death penalty qualified. And if you watched our last stream, Jose Baez was saying to the judge that he needs to get a few things in order to get his death penalty qualification updated. But he said someone else on his team is death penalty qualified. That would be who it is. It would be Rosemary Peoples. So I'm really very interested to see this lady in action when it comes to that. I don't believe that she's going to be seen in this hearing today that we're going to watch. Okay, this is much more similar to the Adelson-Markell case than any of the LDS-related cases. I agree, 100% agree. Nothing to do with LDS. It's much more like the Adelson case. Much more like it. Okay, let's get into it. Doop. There you can see the back of Mr. Baez's head. And there is our lady, Miss Shanna Gardner, to his right. And let's go.
All right, what's up, in session?
Hey, Shibbles.
Be seated.
Well, I hope that sound doesn't continue. Come on. I'm just going to fast forward a little bit. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go. Let's go.
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay. Are you okay with
There we
going
go, that's
forward without
better.
replying?
Yes, we'll wait Ms. Gardner's appearance with us.
Judge London M. Kite.
I believe the state has given the court an evidence list. It has 22 exhibits on it.
It has 20 on it.
20. Okay.
And I've spoken with defense counsel, Christina
Use the
Stiffer.
microphone.
Yes, ma'am.
This prosecutor has lovely hair.
Thanks.
I have to
I have
say,
given
lovely
defense
hair.
counsel copies of the evidence list. I believe that they are stipulating to the admission of all except two of the exhibits, Exhibit J, which the state is by agreement not going to use for the purposes of this hearing. So that will reflect on the evidence list does not enter. I'm sorry, that's Exhibit L.
L not entered.
Yes, ma'am. They're also objecting to Exhibit J, and the state intends to introduce this during the hearing.
Do you want to just skip that number or do you want to renumber?
Whatever it is for the clerk.
Ms. Smith,
They haven't been numbered.
they have them in number. Okay. Then I'm just going to renumber and we can remark our exhibits. Okay. Is that correct, Mr. Purdy?
Yes, Your Honor.
I marked them by letter preliminarily, just for
Okay,
Mr.
so that's
Kirby now.
another one
Right.
of
So
her
L will not be entered.
defense
As to
attorneys.
Exhibit J, the state's prepared to make argument.
I don't know
for
his
Exhibit
name
J.
yet.
That would affect the number of whether or not it's coming in.
Yeah,
Are
he
you
was at
requiring
this
them to lay a
hearing.
foundation?
He absolutely was.
No, Judge, I
He
mean,
does
we
the
believe
cross.
that those, what they're trying to admit, Your Honor, is a series of text messages between two individuals, KJ and a SL, I'll use initials. They don't involve Ms. Gardner. They're discussing what they believe Ms. Gardner needs, and their opinion, and that discussion between two
That's him
people
there.
without the involvement of Ms. Gardner
Understand?
is
See
totally irrelevant to
his
the
back of
purposes
his
of this
head there?
hearing.
That's
And
Jose
frankly,
there.
you know, it's hearsay that wouldn't even be admissible at a trial.
Okay.
Here, as a preliminary matter, this is a bond hearing under the pretrial detention statute and Arthur and its progeny. There are no rules of evidence the way there would apply at trial. Hearsay is allowed. This exhibit is relevant. The state would, number one, if we are proceeding under the rules of evidence, which don't apply to this particular proceeding, these are statements involving KJ, whom the state believes to be statements of a co-conspirator. They are relevant because exhibits I and exhibits I involve text messages between Ms. Gardner and her co-conspirator KJ that directly reference and relate to the messages in Exhibit J, both temporally and in subject matter. So these messages are being relayed
No.
between KJ and SL simultaneously
No,
with messages
Flashman.
between KJ and Ms. Gardner involving
Hang on.
topics of conversation and the detective.
I'll show you. So later on.
I'll just go ahead and
Oh yeah.
add
Hi,
myself to
how's it going?
studio.
No,
Hi.
you're right. I was just hello. I was
Oh,
just I was
hi.
just hello. I'm just
I haven't
answering
seen you in a while.
Flashman's question. Yeah, I
Oh,
haven't
okay.
seen you in a while either. There we go. There's the back of his head, but I'm just going to share this tab instead for a second. This is later in the hearing, Flash fan, and you can see there's Jose Baez doing the
yeah.
cross
I have not
examination.
introduced anything.
Oh yeah, he's definitely there. He is.
There's that sexy Hispanic voice.
There's the sexy man. There's a sexy man. He does the cross
Thank you.
examination. So, oh, sorry. Yeah, you're sexy too.
Clip that. Clip that. Clip that.
Yep. So yeah, he does the cross examination, but he doesn't do the objections to the state on the direct. Oh, hello, Steve. How are you? Yes, Rosemary Peoples. We're just talking about Rosemary Peoples. Would you like a link, Steve? Are you free? You're very welcome on if you'd like. Also, Representative Virgilio Mendez. Oh, she did.
Jeez.
She did. That makes sense because she was also working with Baez, with me in the background assisting. Oh, not free, but thank you. No problem. No problem at all. Thank you. I was telling everybody about Rosemary and saying that you said that she's the best defense attorney that you've been around. That is some serious praise. Some serious praise. So
Better than
can't wait
Jose
to see her
Baez?
in action.
In your opinion? Or I don't know if you can comment on other lawyers, but
Well, I mean, I don't know if Steve's actually worked in he would have worked with Jose a little, but I think that Steve has worked a lot with Rosemary. But she's incredible, the best there is. Yeah. And also I like Jose, very stand-up guy. Nice. Yeah. Now there are 2 interviews with Rosemary Peoples, and I've put them on our Discord for people to have a look at. Yeah, one with Steve and one with Andrew Branco. So, and they're both very interesting. She seems just an incredible person. So, yeah, like I said, I can't wait to see her in action. She's not at this hearing, or if she's at this hearing, she's not in action at this hearing. But yeah, really interested to see her in action. Now, remember how at the last stream, and I just mentioned this before, I don't know if you're here, Steve, Jose said that he hasn't got his death penalty qualification sorted at the moment. He has to update a few things, but he has said someone on his team does. That would be Rosemary. She definitely is death penalty certified.
I'm sure, yeah.
Yeah. She's going to go to town on this case. Can't wait.
Yeah, this is going to be awesome because facts seem against her, but there's some good lawyers here.
facts do seem against her. It's interesting, though, that you'll see in this bond hearing, the state are presenting some exhibits from 6 years ago. So that's it. And when I say 6 years ago, 6 years before the incident. So it does seem a little thin that they're going in with something that is so disconnected from the actual event. And it's like, well, why are you doing that? Do you not have anything that's a little bit more consistent with the actual time frame? Do you not have anything that's, I don't know, it just seems a little bit weak to me, but I don't know, maybe they've got more, but I don't really get why we're talking 6 years prior. Rosemary has tons of death penalty case experience. She was our lead capital trial attorney until Jose hired her away. Yeah, he stole her, did he? Yeah. David Nelson. Yeah, cool. All right, let's keep going.
Going to testify to statements disclosed by KJ involving her conversations with Ms. Gardner about this information. So it is relevant to explain the context of Ms. Gardner's actual admissions and statements that the state is introducing.
It is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
I have absolutely no context.
Can we wait till the detective testifies and I'll make an appropriate objection at the time?
Okay, so I'm gonna hold that, okay? Exhibits A through I will be marked sequentially 1 through 9. J, we are gonna skip right now.
Hello, over on Twitch.
K will be marked as composite 10. M will be marked as composite 11.
There are
N will be composite 12.
of text messages.
O will be composite 13.
But like I said, they're
P will be
6 years
composite
prior.
14. Q will be 15. R will be 16. S will be 17. And we're going to hold on J.
And they're juicy, don't get me wrong, they're juicy. But, oh, here we go, defendant.
All right, and so is there any other issue?
No, Your Honor.
Now that you have a clarification from me as lawyers, is there a stipulation to the defense evidence?
Yes, Your Honor.
Okay.
And Your Honor, I do have an unopposed motion to determine confidentiality of 2 exhibits that I'll hand to the clerk for filing at this time. Those exhibits have been marked as 1 and 2. They are letters from a medical provider and a mental health provider.
All right, there's no objection to those.
No, Your Honor.
And Your Honor, I also have exhibit 3, which is a declaration of from Andrew Wagley, a Washington State lawyer, with an order of dismissal in the extradition case for Ms. Gardner. And exhibit 4 is an email from Hank Cox to Ms. Stifler. And exhibit 5 is a composite exhibit that includes excerpts from a purchase agreement and deeds for 2709 Ocean Drive, Jacksonville Beach.
No objection.
Okay, this will be so heard. That is, defense exhibit 1 and 2 will be just, I've granted the confidentiality, so they shall not be disclosed.
This one has one person.
So we can do a full more on that one.
Yes, sir.
Any other housekeeping matters?
Nothing from the state, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right, thank you.
I wonder what his trial fee is. Like most, really high level criminal defense lawyers were looking $250K trial. Like that's the netty fee.
5 years ago, maybe 6, Jose Baez was charging non-refundable $200,000 a month retainer.
Okay.
On the Zoom,
$200 a
is
month.
Mr. Angel.
$200,000 a month.
Wow.
John Curry. I just wanted to.
And that was like 5 years ago.
That was 5 years
Ms.
ago.
Mansell, how are you?
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to put you in a bind, but just, we need an answer.
I mean, he's worth it
Oh, did you
if
come
you
over
have the
that?
money.
Yes.
I've heard one right here. And
No, okay, I needed an answer. That is the defense filed, 2 exhibits that they, assert are confidential in nature. They have sensitive information in it.
We might flick forward to the actual testimony, hey?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah, there's no objection for Mr. Chinese.
okay, I'm sorry to come over.
And I know that WJXT does it as well with their council administrative plus as well.
Yes, thank you. I didn't mean to make you rush over. For record purposes, holding the hearing on defense motion filed in docket.
Okay, there's a witness.
Raise your right hand. You solemnly swear or
What's going
affirm
on
the
with his
testimony you shall
neck?
give with the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh God, whose keyboard is that?
Yes.
Is Nick Starro in the building?
Deputy Detective.
I thought it was mine for a second till I kept hearing it on the screen.
And Detective Johns, what agency are you employed with?
I work for the Jackson Beach Police Department.
And how many years have you been, I'm gonna call it Jack's Beach PD for time's sake while we speak. How long have you been employed with Jack's Beach PD?
A little over 5.5 years.
And prior to your employment there, could you describe to the court your education and job experience?
I mostly worked in the financial industry, mostly consumer banking and investment management. I held a stockbroker's license as well as a firm principal's license, and I'm currently registered with the SEC as an investment advisor.
And with the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, what's your current role?
I'm a detective in our General Investigations Unit, which handles pretty much everything with the exception of vice or drug crimes.
So that would include homicides, armed robberies, major crimes, all the way down the line.
Yes.
And do you have any special training or experience to become a detective in General Investigations Unit?
On top of the police academy, I've attended approximately 300 hours of specialized training in criminal investigation and drug crimes and investigations. About 120 of that being for death investigations and homicides.
And you are the lead investigator, lead detective who was assigned to investigate the homicide of Jared Bridegan, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I want to talk to you a little bit about your initial involvement in this case. February 16, 2022, were you dispatched to a scene in which Jared Bridegan was the victim?
Yes, ma'am.
And where in Jacksonville, Duval County was this homicide scene?
I was dispatched to Jacksonville Drive and Sanctuary Boulevard, which is it's really an on-ramp to JTV and also serves as an entrance into a neighborhood called the Sanctuary.
And when you arrived on scene, was Jared Bridegan already deceased?
Yes, ma'am.
There was a child in the vehicle with Jared. And I don't want to use her name because she's a minor child, but are her initials BP?
Yes,
And what was her relationship to the deceased victim, Jared Bridegan?
it was Jared's daughter,
Do you know approximately at the time of your arrival on scene how old she would have been?
about 2.5.
When you arrived on scene, where was BB located?
When I arrived on scene, a good Samaritan had grabbed her from her car seat, which was in the back of the vehicle, and taken them into their vehicle and covered her with blankets.
Do you recall what BB's demeanor was like when you encountered her on scene that night?
She was very upset, crying, scared, obviously.
And the Good Samaritans relayed to you that they had taken her out of her car seat. Did you have the opportunity to observe Jared Bridegan's vehicle on scene that night?
I did.
And Jared himself was not in the vehicle.
Correct.
Can you describe for the court, in relation to where BB was seated in her car seat, what damage you observed to the vehicle?
In relation to where her car seat was, she was in the back, but at least 2 rounds struck the interior of the vehicle. One of them striking the bottom of the window seal and shattering the window. That would have been just in front of her car seat.
And I guess I didn't ask this.
Okay, so I should just explain to anyone who doesn't know about this case. Like I said, when the stream started, he got out of the car to move a big tire that was in the middle of the street, so he couldn't drive around the tire. Apparently, he had to move the tire. The tire was placed in the middle of the street. He was then gunned down when he was moving the tire. Now, his 2.5-year-old daughter, not the daughter that he had with the defendant, the daughter he had with his new wife, was in the car at the time. So this is a bit of a sad part of the story, that the 2.5-year-old daughter was there and he's gunned down. Now, when the bullets were going towards Jared Bridegan, some of the bullets actually hit the car. So the child was in danger, sadly. Child wasn't hit. And the child was left in the car with the dead father on the road for, I think, up to 25 minutes is what's ended up being the story. And a good Samaritan, someone around the place, came and found this dead father on the ground and this poor child screaming, crying, whatever, in the car seat in the back of the car. So it's all pretty horrible, the story. And obviously it's going to be played out in court, this whole story, and it's going to make the defendant terrible. Anyway, so that's what that all is.
But Jared Bridegan was pronounced deceased by the medical examiner, cause of death being gunshot wounds.
Yes, ma'am.
And from your review, were there projectiles that entered into the vehicle in which BB was in the car seat?
There were.
Did she make any statements to you or other investigators with the Jacksonville Beach PD that night?
She made mention of hearing a loud sound, boom, boom, saying that she had to take her shoes off to cover her ears, and she made mention that her dad was sick and was on the ground and needed a doctor.
Oh. Jeez.
I want to skip ahead in your investigation. You obviously did many, many, many hours of investigation, many interviews in the days and weeks and months following your response to the scene.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you eventually were able to make an arrest in this case for the murder of Jared Bridegan?
Yes, we made 3 arrests.
And who did you arrest?
Tenon, Shanna Gardner, and Fernandez Saldana.
I want to speak for a moment about Henry Tenon. Henry Tenon was arrested and charged with the murder of Jared Bridegan, including the discharge of the firearm that caused his death.
Yes, ma'am.
And to your knowledge, has Henry Tenon pled guilty to his role in the murder of Jared Bridegan?
He did.
Were you present when Mr. Tenon gave what's called a sworn statement in conjunction with his plea, which outlined his involvement in Jared's murder?
Yes, I was.
What did he advise you about how it was that he came to be involved in Jared's murder?
Mr. Tenon was a tenant at one of their rental properties, and he had been approached by Mr. Fernandez a number of times, asking him if he would participate in his homicide. Mr. Tenon stated that he initially denied Mr. Fernandez's request. However, once Mr. Fernandez had agreed that they would, Shanna and Mario would invest $150,000 into a pallet business, he agreed to participate.
Okay, and I want to go back and ask some follow-up questions about that. When you say that Henry Tenon said Mario Fernandez requested him to participate in a homicide, what specifically was that conversation, according to Mr. Tenon?
He stated that in exchange for the money, that Mr. Fernandez would provide a firearm, and then they would contrive a plan. Initially, the plan was to kidnap Mr. Bridegan and then take him to another location and murder him.
And did Mr. Tenon advise as to what, if anything, Mario Fernandez Saldana said about why he wanted to murder Jared Bridegan?
They had initially planned, or were planning this in late 2021, and then after returning from a Hawaii trip in February, Mr. Fernandez approached Mr. Tenon and stated that this needed to happen this week. So, and if he didn't get it done, that his marriage was going to end.
Did Henry Tenon know Jared Bridegan?
No, he did not.
Had he ever seen him before the night of the homicide on February 16, 2022?
No. In fact, there were 2 instances where Mr. Fernandez took Mr. Tenon in an attempt to show him Mr. Bridegan, and both of those were failed attempts.
Other than the relationship of Mr. Tenon being a tenant of Mario Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner's rental company, were you able to find in your investigation any other link or connection between Henry Tenon and Jared Bridegan?
None.
In your conversations with Henry Tenon, was Mr. Tenon able to, even before this night, describe what Jared Bridegan looked like?
Not at all.
What type of car he drove?
No.
Did he know on the night that he murdered Jared Bridegan that BB would be in the vehicle with him?
He did not know that.
Detective, I'm going to draw your attention to a screen that's in your witness box. Some of these exhibits have been entered by agreement of both parties. I'm going to start with Exhibit 1. Detective, what is this?
These are articles of organization for a limited liability company named First Choice Home Rentals LLC. And the second document is a annual filing for that same LLC.
Okay, so when you say that annual filing on State's Exhibit 2, this would be the annual report of First Choice Home Rentals LLC.
Correct.
Going back to State's Exhibit 1, you have some familiarity with this from your prior experience. Who are the title holders or principals on these articles of organization?
Both Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez are listed as managing members, or what would be considered owners of the LLC.
And the LLC is First Choice Home Rentals. What was the business of this LLC as incorporated?
The business was established to manage their rental property holdings.
And these are some of the articles, the full exhibit the court will have, but under Article 5, the electronic signator on this Articles of Incorporation is Shanna Gardner. Is that correct?
I don't recall, honestly.
Moving to State's Exhibit 2, this document is an annual report. What does that mean?
This is just a document that's filed every year to basically let the state know this is still an active company and that to make any changes to the ownership or management of the company.
And this was filed in the upper right-hand corner, January 28th, 2022, which was a few weeks before the murder of Jared Bridegan. And again, at the bottom, who are the still owners or signatories on this LLC?
The listed owners are Shanna Gardner and Fernandez.
I'm turning your attention to State's Composite Exhibit 3. Detective, can you describe to the court what these documents are?
This is a bank statement from Navy Federal Credit Union that held the account for First Choice Home Rentals.
And in the exhibits the court will receive, you obtained these records via subpoena, and they are accompanied by certification of records from Navy Federal.
Yes, ma'am.
And there's a red box here. Can you describe for the court what that is indicating?
The red box is indicating a transfer from a separate checking account also held in a federal credit union. In this instance, it's stating that on March 15th, $5,000 was transferred from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust account at Navy Federal into the First Choice Home Rentals account.
This is another exhibit, or another page on Composite Exhibit 3, again showing that the First Choice Home Rentals LLC was getting, appears to be monthly transfers from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust.
There was another transfer in April of the same amount.
And we'll come back to that trust in a moment. I'm going to move to State's Exhibit D. What records are we looking at here?
This is a PNC bank statement for Mr. Henry Tenon's account.
4. I'm sorry, Composite Exhibit 4. In your discussions with Mr. Tenon involving how he became a part of this scheme to murder Jared Bridegan, you mentioned that he was promised a payment. Can you give us any more details about what Mr. Tenon advised you that he was promised and how he would receive this money?
Lies.
He was promised $150,000 in the form of investment into a pallet business.
And was this payment going to come in a lump sum or in installments?
So it'd be installment payments.
Was there any discussion of why that would be the case?
As to not rise any suspicion.
And moving through Composite Exhibit 4, documents for Mr. Tenon, and a portion of his standard checking statement. Okay. Drawing your attention to the screen now, there's a red box. Can you describe for the court what is indicated by that on this checking statement?
The statement is indicating a deposit for $2,000 on March 28th, which would be in line with the check that's in the top right-hand corner.
And this is March 28th, 2022.
Correct.
This would be about a month and some time after the murder of Jared Bridegan.
That's correct.
Hello.
And then a second red box.
Hi.
Correct.
Describe what this indicates.
This was a check that was deposited on the next day, on March 29th, for $3,000, also written from First Choice Home Rentals.
Okay.
Oh God, that doesn't look good.
And on the next slide, we see the final check and final box. Can you describe what we're seeing here?
Paid him
Checks
$3,000 a day after.
$5,000 written to Henry Tenon from First Choice Home
I
Rentals.
always thought Hitman got paid.
And in the
before.
subject line, it says Kickstarter, good luck. Can you describe for the court, based on your conversations with Mr. Tenon, what this check was actually for?
Mr. Tenon stated this was the first of many payments that was supposed to be an investment into his pallet company, which was actually payment for the homicide.
Now, the prior checks, the $3,000 and $4,000 were marked for landscaping and roofing. What did Mr. Tenon say about those payments?
He stated that those payments were for legitimate work that he had done on the rental property on Potomac Avenue.
So this was the first and the only payment he actually received from First Choice Home Rentals for the contract killing of Jared Bridegan.
Correct.
Alleged.
I want to talk about Ms. Gardner
Allegedly.
and Mr. Fernandez, your development of them as suspects in this case. When you were investigating the murder of Jared Bridegan, were you able to eliminate through investigative techniques other potential suspects?
In the beginning, we really didn't have any suspects. We look at everyone who might be close to the family, your relatives, spouse. And so through various techniques, we do start to kind of eliminate people who just had no reason or no capability of doing it.
During your investigation, did you do search warrants and subpoenas into Jared Bridegan and those in his immediate inner circle?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you download Jared Bridegan's phones, laptops, work phones, personal devices?
We did.
And you reviewed all those records?
We did.
Did you get financial records and call detail records for Jared Bridegan?
We did.
Did you get them for his wife, Kirsten Bridegan?
Yes, ma'am.
Did you get them from many people close to him and his family and inner circle?
We did.
Was there any indication through your investigation that anybody, putting aside Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez Saldana, had any problems with Jared Bridegan or any motive to carry out the homicide of Jared Bridegan?
No, there was not.
No
There's
one else.
debts that he was hiding,
Nope.
No.
no evidence of drug use that he was hiding.
By all accounts, Mr. Bridegan was a very boring person who lived a very close.
Oh, he's
simple
boring.
life. He had no debts, had plenty of money in the bank, no indications
That's
of
nice.
gambling or drug habits, no affairs. and he's
Calling the
talking to-
decedent boring.
And you even spoke to people who even had minor arguments with Jared over the years, just to check them out and clear them.
Correct.
So during your investigation, at some point, did you start hearing from people that you should be looking at Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez Saldana as suspects?
Almost immediately.
Ah,
And how did you get information directing you to look into these individuals?
We had several people come forward who shared stories that they had heard over the years of Ms. Gardner stating that she hated Jared and could not stand the fact that she had to share custody with him and that she wanted him dead.
gossip.
And you heard this unsolicited from numerous people, not just one person.
Correct.
When you heard this information, did you investigate into the past history of Shanna Gardner and Jared Bridegan?
Yes, ma'am.
They had gone through a pretty acrimonious divorce.
Correct.
Can you briefly describe to the court what that investigation uncovered for you?
They were divorced in 2015 and pretty much consistently between 2015 up until Jared's death, they were in court at least annually. Pretty much every aspect of the child custody was litigated and fought through mediation. It was to the degree that they no longer had any type of verbal communication about their children. Everything was done either in writing or through an attorney.
And from your investigation, were they even able to be in the same room together?
No,
How did they co-parent?
through the court.
When they went to the school,
This,
did they have
is this
separate
funny,
parent-teacher
sir?
It was indicated that they had separate parent-teacher conferences, they would have separate doctor's appointments, or only one of them would attend the doctor's appointments. There was virtually nothing that made it together as far as that is.
During your investigation, you spoke with Mr. Fernandez Saldana and Ms. Gardner. Did they tell you and corroborate this information that there was this bad relationship between them as co-parents?
Yes, and a bunch of this information came directly from them.
And from your investigation, can you describe for the court some of what you uncovered about what Ms. Gardner was trying to do through the court system in terms of Jared's ability to participate in co-parenting?
Ms. Gardner was attempting to initiate a quote-unquote social investigation or a BCF investigation in an effort to gain, if not majority custody, sole custody over the children, so that she did not have to involve Mr. Bridegan in custody issues.
What kind of things were they disagreeing over in terms of child rearing?
Everything from schedules to who could be around when the children were there, and then to more severe things such as medication, medical devices that one of the twins needed.
This is all very
There was
normal,
little that
though.
wasn't litigated.
What about religion?
One of a big contention, which I don't think it's ever made it to litigation, Mr. Bridegan did
Well,
state
no.
that he wanted to raise his children in the Mormon faith, and Shanna did not want to raise the kids. At some point, one of the twins indicated that she wanted to be baptized into the Church of Latter-day Saints, and this was very troubling for Ms. Gardner.
And when we all hear that, can you put into perspective for the court how big of an issue religion was to Jared Bridegan?
He was a devout member of the church, a very faithful person, so it would have been an extreme issue for him.
So was she.
I also want to talk about Shanna Gardner's financial motivations. Earlier, we saw records from the Shanna Gardner Irrevocable Trust. Can you describe for the court, have you seen the trust documents yourself?
I have.
Can you describe for the court what the trust is and what it was, I guess, created to do?
The trust would operate as a separate entity. The trust was funded by Ms. Gardner's parents, and it was a way that they could essentially give money for the benefit of Ms. Gardner and the twins that would not be considered her personal income. And so therefore, Mr. Bridegan would not have any access to those funds. In this case, the grantors were Mr. and Mrs. Gardner, and the trustee was Margaret Fernandez.
So the trust not only was something that people with a lot of money do with their money. There's also partially motivated by wanting to prevent that money from being litigated in the courts between Jared Bridegan and Shanna Gardner.
That's correct.
Have they had a history of litigating finances in addition to all the child custody issues?
Yes, during their divorce, their financial situation, especially their marital home, was heavily litigated.
And I'm turning to a portion of states.
I think trying to make this into financial motivation is silly.
Yeah.
Like, she has tons of money, clearly, right? Like, I don't think bringing finances into it at
You
all.
try to turn it into murder.
Yeah, like, you can't. The state cannot be arguing that finances have any part of any motivation to knock him off. I don't think. Like, just like, the evidence is right there. There's at least $1 million worth of lawyers sitting right there, like,
Yeah.
at least. And
That's
she's
true.
just rolling in money. Her family's rolling in money. There's just no way that there's any financial motivation behind actually knocking him off. If there's any motivation whatsoever, is to have sole custody of the children. But even that, so many people have these sorts of arguments with their ex over custody issues. It's a stretch. But anyway, let's keep going.
Composite Exhibit 6. Detective Johns, this is from the trust document itself. Can you describe for the court what this clause means?
This clause states that once Ms. Gardner has no more legal entanglements with her
They're just
ex-husband,
saying
Mr.
she
Bridegan,
had the money
she
to
may
do
elect to
this.
serve as trustee of her trust, essentially giving her control over the assets
think?
inside the trust.
At the time of Jared Bridegan's death, who
I think
was the
that's
acting trustee of
pretty
the trust?
obvious.
Mario Fernandez.
But yeah,
I want to turn your attention
it's
to
not very much
what we
money.
discussed earlier, that you actually spoke with Mr. Fernandez Saldana and Ms. Gardner in the course of your investigation. How many
Okay, that's
times
fair,
did you see
Chinny.
Shanna Gardner after the homicide of Jared
Everything
Bridegan?
was
I spoke to
litigated.
her twice.
And let's talk about that first interview. Did that occur March 1st, 2022?
Yes, ma'am.
And did you speak with Ms. Gardner and Mr.
We're raising
Fernandez
the money
Saldana at the
issues to
Jacksonville
imply
Beach Police
flight
Station?
risk.
I did.
Did you ask them to come to the police
That's
station?
interesting point.
Initially, yes, I did.
And were you speaking to many, many other people as we testified earlier? At that point, you had no suspects.
We were doing dozens of interviews.
What was the purpose of these conversations with them? Were they custodial interrogations? Were they under suspicion at that time?
Absolutely not. At that time, we were just really collecting information about who Jared was, anyone that he might have associated with. We wanted to basically know everything we could about him. Really, he was kind of the focus at that point in our investigation.
What did you advise Ms. Gardner was the purpose of your conversation with her on March 1st, 2022?
I stated at that time we were doing something that we refer to as victimology.
And that would be a background investigation into the victim, in this case, Jared, right?
Correct.
When you spoke with her, did you speak with her in what's called the soft interview room at Jacksonville Beach Police
Yep.
Station?
Correct. We have
Definitely.
two interview areas. One of them would be what someone would maybe describe as
Florida.
the interrogation room. There's no soft furniture. It's very hard, very cold. This is just a room with a couch and a couple of chairs, and it's where we conduct our interview, really just more interviews versus interrogations.
And Ms. Gardner was brought to that room for her
I
interview,
can't wait.
just like every other witness you spoke to in this case.
That's correct.
And during that conversation, just a brief overview of her demeanor and how that interview sort of began.
She was very forthcoming. It was a very typical interview. She was very talkative and provided a lot of context without a whole lot of questions being asked.
And you said provide a lot of context. What was the general tone of that context she provided?
The general tone of it was, I don't really know a whole lot about Jared now, but I will tell you how he was when we were married and what our divorce was like. Essentially, he was manipulative, caused her a lot of trauma, and then moving on to we had a terrible divorce and talking about how that affected the children and so on. Really.
Did she bring up at any point that Jared Bridegan was at all abusive towards her, physically or verbally?
She stated that he was in fact not physically or verbally abusive.
And during this conversation, part of the reason you spoke to her is that she and her husband, Mario Fernandez, and her children, AZ and LB, were the last people to see Jared Bridegan alive.
That's correct.
And did she give you some indication as to where everybody was in the house during the time of the homicide?
She stated that when the kids were dropped off by Mr. Bridegan, Mario was asleep and she was cooking with her earphones in the kitchen.
Did she say where he was sleeping?
I don't know that she stated that where he was sleeping during her interview, but he indicated that he was on the couch.
Did you have a second, and you also interviewed Mario Fernandez Saldana separately, but on the same date?
Correct.
I want to jump forward. April 15th, 2022, did you have a second interview with Ms. Gardner?
I did.
And how was it that you came to interview her a second time?
At that point, we're not anticipating having a second interview. We were actually approached by Mr. Fernandez. He asked if they could come by. They were receiving a lot of media scrutiny or people from their neighborhood complaining, basically accusing
I
them
need
of
to
being
pause.
involved in this. So
They were approached, law enforcement were approached by Mr. Fernandez because they were receiving a lot of media attention and stuff. He's the co-defendant. The co-defendant, so her husband, Shanna Gardner, went to law enforcement for help because the media was swarming them and stuff. This is after Gardner and Bridegan was murdered. Okay, so what guilty party actually goes to the cops?
Zachariah Anderson,
Yeah, Zach,
literally.
right? He went to the cops because two bloody thugs turn up at his house going, hey, you know where my friend is? Did you do something to my friends?
Yeah.
Right? And he's scared. Now, that is very telling, I think, that her husband, who also is sitting there awaiting trial for the death penalty, is going to the cops for help. And P.S. also, part of the reason why people think that they are guilty is because they traveled across the country to live in Washington, right? And they say the reason they went to live in Washington is to get away from all the scrutiny from people talking about them and thinking they were murderers in that Jacksonville area in Florida, right? So, and the local media and that just being on their doorstep all the time. So that was their reason for leaving, and no one was doing anything about it. So that's very interesting. I find that very interesting. Jody went to the cops. Really?
Yeah.
There you go. Wow.
But she's kind of delusional.
Well, yeah, I know. I heard Bridegan, and all I can think of is Benny Gay. Did Holderson go to the cops?
Yeah, but he kind of
Did
had
he?
to.
Yeah, that was like because he had to.
Yeah, he was living at his parents' house. His parents weren't there.
Yeah.
It would have been sus if he didn't.
Yeah, but this was like long after, and after like they were under a lot of scrutiny. I have to hear all the evidence, but I think she has something to do with it. Look, I think she kind of does at the moment, and I've felt that way since I first heard about it, but I'm really open either way. I'm really open either way at the moment. Really open. But this to me seems sus. This is the first thing I've really heard that sounds very sus, that they went to the cops.
Mark Jensen went to the cops.
When?
He's not guilty.
When?
When he
When
called
did he
them,
go to the cops?
well, he called them his wife was dead.
Well, you got to.
Well,
Yeah.
Dick
You
Patterson did not go to the cops until like a week after. She was just rotting in his bed.
Yeah, all right. Anyway, hi, Benjamin. Good to see you here. Good to see you here.
Mr. Fernandez specifically wanted to know if this was something that we were encouraging or that if we were behind it, indicated that we were not behind that. And then he just wanted to vent his frustration to what was going on. After speaking with him, we asked if Ms. Gardner wanted to come by and basically do the same thing, and she agreed to come speak with us.
Like the first interview, was this what we would call a soft interview or a custodial interrogation?
It was a soft interview.
Same interview room with the couches,
Correct.
no reading of Miranda rights, no questioning of her as a suspect.
Correct.
During this interview, describe her demeanor.
This demeanor, she was much more upset, but she was upset because she felt like she was being attacked in the media or on social media, really. And she did not feel safe leaving her home because people were recognizing her and they were basically blaming her for this homicide.
In this particular interview, did you ask her many questions?
No, not at
Did she do most of the talking
all. She didn't.
unprompted?
Yes.
You did ask her a question about whether she had any theories.
Then he's innocent.
about what happened to
He
Jared.
Towards
does.
the end of the interview, we asked if she had any theories about what she thought might
Kind of
happen.
innocence.
Did she?
She provided some.
And let's start there. What did she say she believed happened to Jared Bridegan?
She said that maybe it was a drug deal gone wrong or a gang initiation, and then she stated that we should look into Kirsten Bridegan.
What did she say about it being a drug deal gone wrong? What made her think that that was a possibility as conveyed to you?
She said that she had heard from friends that Sanctuary Boulevard was where you go to buy drugs in Jackson Beach.
And you're a general investigations detective at the Jacksonville Beach Police Department. Based on your knowledge and your years with the force, is that true?
I have never heard that.
Okay. What about, you mentioned gangs. What did she say about gangs?
She said that she had heard that some gangs do initiations by doing drive-by shootings like this.
Okay, and in your experience with the Jacksonville Beach Police Department, have you all ever had a gang-related drive-by shooting initiation case involving the murder of a father in a vehicle with his child at 7:50 p.m.?
I'm unaware of it.
What?
In general, do you get many gang initiation shootings?
Was she trying to blame a
Oh, very
black person?
Lastly,
What a
what did she
question.
tell you about Kirsten Bridegan?
It was a Puerto
Just
Rican
that
fella
you
that
should
did it.
Look into her as a suspect for the homicide.
Did she give you any reasons?
Not that I can recall at this point.
All right, so she gave you these theories to potentially investigate. Presumably she was trying to be helpful.
Presumably.
Did she ever mention that you all should investigate Mario Fernandez Saldana?
No.
Did she ever mention any conversations she had had with Mario Fernandez Saldana about killing Jared Bridegan?
No,
Did she ever mention someone by the name of Henry Tenon?
she's not.
Did she ever mention anything about knowledge of a vehicle that looked like the one in the news release that Jackson Beach put out?
No.
Did she ever mention to you that people might come forward saying that she had said she wanted Jared Bridegan dead?
No.
Did she ever mention to you that people may come forward saying that either she or Mario Fernandez Saldana had talked in the past about hiring a hitman to kill Jared Bridegan?
No.
Was that your last contact with Ms. Gardner?
Yes, it was.
Now, after that point, you began to develop leads in your investigation, and you began to look at some point
Bisexual.
at Ms. Gardner. and
Bisexual.
That's correct.
And you zeroed in on Henry Tenon and were able to identify him
Bisexual.
as a person of interest, perhaps the shooter.
Correct.
And after his arrest, you were able to obtain evidence further into his involvement, as well as the involvement of Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez Saldana.
That's correct.
I want to go through some of what your investigation revealed after you last spoke with Ms. Gardner.
Oh, there are 84 genders, so
And
it's
for
possible.
the court's information in the
Oh,
state's
text messages.
exhibit, there's a composite 7, it's an extraction report
Try.
of a cell phone belonging to a woman named Kim Jensen. Detective Johns, who is Kim
Jensen.
Jensen in relation to Ms. Gardner?
Yes,
Kim
there's a
Jensen was a
Any
lady
relation?
that Ms. Gardner met when she moved to Jacksonville. They were a member of the same ward or church, and they became very good friends, by all means, best friends.
Did their friendship begin before Jared Bridegan and Ms. Gardner were divorced?
No, their friendship did begin before their divorce, correct?
So she knew her when she being Ms. Jensen, knew Ms. Gardner when she was married to Jared Bridegan.
Yes, that's correct. And in fact, she knew Jared longer than she knew Ms. Gardner.
Based on your investigation, we see your text messages. At some point, did you obtain a cell phone download of Kim Jensen's phone?
We did.
And was there contact between Ms. Jensen and Ms. Gardner?
There was extensive contact on a daily basis between the two of them,
For how long?
at least going back to 2015.
And how frequent was their contact with each other?
It was numerous times a day, phone calls, text messages,
Voice notes?
all kinds of things.
And from your review, not relevant to the homicide necessarily, but for context, your review of their contact, did they seem to have a very close and open relationship?
It would certainly appear that way.
They talk about the most intimate details of their lives,
Yes,
the most mundane details of their lives.
yes.
So we're looking at your state's composite exhibit 8. These are text messages on Ms. Jensen's phone that you found between her and Shanna Gardner dating back to 2015. And we're going to start there and work our way forward to
2015.
I know it's difficult to read.
This is a friend of hers from church.
Can you please describe for the court the conversation,
Maybe
tone,
they're
and
talking about a
tenor
potluck.
between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen regarding Jared that began around this time period?
The context of this particular chat chain is Shanna telling Ms. Jensen that Matt is ready to come over there and to talk to him, meaning Mr. Bridegan. She said it would not get physical, and maybe then moves on to basically say, that they maybe encourage it to become physical at some point.
Oh, physical. Kind of
Physical.
So,
Physical.
what did you identify?
Let's get
This would be
physical.
state's composite exhibit 8.
8, okay, thank you.
Can you zoom in, princess?
Sorry, my computer decided to reset its password in the middle of this.
Come on, broad.
In
Pinch and
2015,
zoom,
what was the
pinch and
status
zoom.
of Shanna Gardner and Gardner Bridegan's relationship?
In the beginning of 2015, they were still married, and they did eventually divorce in 2015.
Moving
Thank
on
you.
to page 2 of State's Composite Exhibit 8, more text between Ms. Gardner and Kim Jensen. And what are they talking about here?
Since Matt was ready to come over here today and talk to him, it wouldn't get physical yet, but I tell him if these things happen X, Y, and Z, then A, B, and C will happen to him. And if he calls the cops, Matt would know, and A, B, C would happen. He said, I tell him he can thank the beautiful woman he's leeching off of that he's even still alive, because if it were up to him, he would have disappeared months ago. I told him your comment about the casserole. Ha, ha,
Oh,
ha.
come on, do the.
Okay, then Ms. Jensen replies, and she talks at some
What
point
kind of
in this text
casserole?
here about funeral potatoes.
Funeral
Does that
potatoes.
phrase become relevant to your investigation?
It did. There were two phrases that kind of were a continuation during all of their text messages. One of those referred to as a casserole, also aka funeral potatoes, or then there was the phrase of doing magic. Sorry.
So
These
let's-
are the
sorry,
worst
I'm
code
interrupting.
words
Let's
ever.
talk about the funeral potatoes casserole. Did these words, were they used frequently in conversations between Shanna Gardner and Kim Jensen?
Yes, they were.
And in what context were they used?
In reference to the death of Jared.
So there's more
Wait,
text here
funeral
about
potatoes is a real
potatoes.
thing.
These are, in fairness,
Is it?
everybody knows
Yeah,
about schema
it's-
and therapist.
I just got
Absolutely.
recipes for
But
it.
at some point, did these texts continue and escalate to the point where they became significant to your investigation?
Shut up.
I'm
There was a
serious.
continuation of this type of texting between them throughout their entire relationship that we were aware of,
I just
starting in
Googled it.
2015 through at least 2021. And
Pause it.
I would say that the messages are
Funeral potatoes is a real thing.
Is a traditional potato hot dish or casserole that is popular in the American Intermountain West and Midwest.
Okay.
A delicious hash brown casserole that
But
makes
why is
a.
it called funeral potatoes?
I don't know. Oh, it's a
That's
Mormon
awful.
thing. It's a Mormon thing.
It's a Mormon thing. No way.
Okay, this might be complete bullshit. What other terms
Oh,
was she discussing?
just a casserole.
It's a
But there was magic. There was a thing about magic and making him disappear.
okay.
But maybe
Maybe it's
they
just a joke
made-
with the name
maybe
of
it's just
funeral.
a joke. Yeah.
Okay, I've never heard of that before.
No, I've never heard of it. Funeral they're delicious. They look delicious.
Yeah,
They look good.
commonly served after LDS funerals.
Oh,
Okay, I mean,
yeah.
I mean, it's a little,
yeah.
yeah, it's a little
Yeah.
mitigating and a little aggravating.
Maybe,
But we
but
got the Mormon connection in. So
we do have
there's
the
that.
Mormon connection. Okay, let's keep going. Goodness me.
Okay,
much
that's
more
just,
vulgar
yeah.
than this.
So here we have
That's fine.
United States Composite Exhibit 8, text messages from 2015. Shanna Gardner saying, I would happily
Yeah, we
watch
can
him
ask
give him a
Danny
legal objection. They're talking about they would love to see him get the death penalty and they could make a casserole.
Yeah, it's that. It's just like
Moving
that.
on, again, States Composite Exhibit 8. More text messages.
Okay,
And
hold
this-
on.
These ones, there's a discussion. Can you describe to the court
Interesting.
where this discussion develops?
Be right back.
These are essentially theories of what they could do to, Ms. Jensen refers to Jared as stupid.
Okay, so stupid, and we'll see that in other text messages. That was a nickname that Ms. Gardner was trying to use.
You called him
to refer to Jared
stupid?
Bridegan.
Correct.
So what
Oh,
direction did this
good.
conversation take?
It's essentially just more about ways that Ms. Gardner is unhappy with Mr. Bridegan, that she would like for him no longer to be alive. And then they talk about casserole, and then they will move on to other things as far as how to cause his death.
These are difficult to read. This is State's Exhibit Composite 9. These are texts in 2016, and the next slide will be zoomed in a little bit. But here we see Ms. Gardner. This is the first time she brings up the word hitman in her discussions with Ms. Jensen. Can you describe for the court what this conversation centers around and how it's
There you
developed?
go.
Essentially, Ms. Gardner's upset. She says it's too late to get a hitman, I'm serious. I think Ms. Jensen is trying to kind of talk it down a little bit. And then they move on to basically where they start talking about, does she know anyone that could actually carry out this plan?
And we see that down here in the bottom. You can draw this thing if there's anything you want to circle. That Ms. Jensen says, I know Sue's husband knows people. Ms. Gardner replies, and then replies, I'm not even joking, I want him gone. And the conversation goes on from there. At the time they're having this conversation, and here's a zoomed in version of it. Simultaneous with this conversation, did you also find text messages between Ms. Jensen and the person that they were discussing finding a hitman in the previous slide?
Correct. So while this conversation was going on, Kim Jensen reaches out to the person that they're referring to and asks if she knows anyone that can do magic, i.e. make someone disappear. Referring to, do they know anyone?
Exactly.
And one quick second. These text messages between Ms. Jensen and the third party are referenced in both the exhibit we just looked at and text messages that you found later,
That's
correct?
correct.
And in your conversations with Ms. Jensen, she disclosed to you that she reached out to this person because of her conversations with Ms. Gardner.
Correct.
Your Honor, at this time, the state would seek to move into evidence which been marked as State's K as State's Exhibit 10. I'm sorry, as State's J as State's Exhibit 18.
Your Honor, single objection. I don't see anything in here where Ms. Gardner is asking Ms. Jensen to reach out to Sue. I don't know how that can be, what Ms. Jensen did can be used against Ms. Gardner at this point. Again, we're talking about things that are 6 years prior to the killing of Gardner and Bridegan. I don't believe there's any allegation from the state whatsoever that this led to anything, or that even in the state's theory, to the death of Mr. Bridegan. It's totally irrelevant. It is so stale, and this court should not even consider it for purposes of this bond hearing. It's not relevant.
Your Honor, that
Even as a co-conspirator statement?
Are they saying that the conspiracy went back to 2016? Is that the state's argument?
Your Honor, the date range encompasses these text messages in the charged indictment. There are further statements leading up to the death of Jared Bridegan between these individuals. They are relevant because they show Ms. Gardner's state of mind, intent, incitement, encouragement as it relates to being a principal of first-degree murder. This is a bond hearing. The rules of evidence are loosened. There's no jury before the court. The court can give whatever weight to these text messages that deems fit based on the argument of Mr. Carodi, but his argument goes to the weight, not the admissibility. They are admissible because they are simultaneous statements to a conversation she's having with Ms. Jensen, to a third party that is then referenced by Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen about what it is they're planning to do or hoping to see done.
As far as the dates, the indictment covers a different time period for the conspiracy.
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at it.
What are the dates, Judge? Like
As
has
account two,
it
the conspiracy covers November, no, one between.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, I see it now.
Your Honor, and I would argue that we have a multiple conspiracy problem here. What are they actually charging us as a conspiracy? Because the conspiracy, I think that you have a multiple conspiracy problem.
Oh, okay. So what, you want them to charge again? Maybe not.
Maybe for a jury, but why would that apply in a bond hearing?
Judge, the argument would be relevant as to purposes of this hearing, which would be, one, because there's only one capital offense on this indictment. The proof evident presumption grade and the evidence that the state must carry with regard to that is only to the first degree murder charge. So evidence of the conspiracy, I would say, is not relevant. And then the second question would be the state's motion for pretrial detention, which is generally, is she a danger to the community or a flight risk? And I don't see how this evidence would be relevant to that either. And I don't believe there's any connection to this piece of evidence and the killing of Jared Bridegan in February of 2022.
Yeah.
What's the connection?
So the connection goes to her intent, incitement, encouragement. Her intent that the crime be committed, which is the first element of the principal language. She's a principal of first degree murder. She wasn't the one who pulled the trigger. She's the one who set the events in motion, the state has to prove that she had the intent specifically that the murder of Jared Bridegan take place. So all of these statements and all of this interaction with her co-conspirators and her attempts to solicit and conspire other individuals that failed up until the point she found the ability to complete the task with Mario Fernandez and Henry Tenon are relevant to her intent.
I guess my question would be, that's why this is admissible. Why would the conspiracy of KJ reaching out to whoever those text messages would be relevant in the connection to Ms. Gardner?
Because she attempted to bring in these individuals into her conspiracy that ultimately resulted in the death of Jared Bridegan and Mario Fernandez Saldana, as the court will hear from Detective Dunn's testimony later in this hearing.
That's a whole different set of people.
Judge, if the court reads these text messages that are on the screen, Ms. Gardner never asked Ms. Jensen to reach out to Sue. This is Ms. Jensen on her own volition. I don't know how that intent can be imputed to Ms. Gardner.
Just a moment. These are hard to read.
Unless I misunderstand, this whole conversation didn't end up in Henry Tenon shooting Jared Bridegan in 2022. It was just some chatter between her and this Kim and Sue in 2015. I don't think it led to anything.
What are the timing of those other messages?
So when she was Gardner suggesting it to get a hitman, she says, Sue's husband knows people. She says, I'm not even joking, I want him gone. That's at 1:31 p.m., 7/17/2016. The following slide shows contact between Ms. Jensen and another party on that same day at 4:33 p.m. And then State's Exhibit Composite 9 includes text messages on 7/19 and 7/21, in which Ms. Gardner asks Ms. Jensen, do I ask so-and-so about people? Should I ask him today? Referencing the same person that Ms. Jensen and this other third party were discussing.
Tell me the date and time of that.
That one would be July 21st and July 22nd. She asks on July 21st, do I ask X about people? I wait. July 22nd, can I ask M today? Let's see what H says.
Okay, give me a second.
Yes, ma'am. They're also using language in this text that's at issue, code words that they use in other discussions, such as magic, making someone disappear, etc. This conversation clearly is in context of Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen discussing, asking these people. She just reached out. My contention is she did ask her to reach out. When she says, Sue's husband, I know people, she says, I'm not even joking. I want him gone. That seems like the go-ahead to reach out. I think it's relevant, and the follow-up conversation they have references the conversation Ms. Jensen had with this third party. In the context of following up, let's ask these people, following up, let's ask these people, using the code word that she uses with the third party.
I'm not even joking. I want him gone.
It gives context to what the defendant.
I say that about Dolly all the time. You're muted. You boomer.
I knew you were talking behind my back.
It's not relevant.
They just won't admit it because they can't betray your confidence.
But yeah, no, but they've got screenshots. Someone's going to stream about it soon.
And the messages you're saying on the same date, just
Yes,
later in the time?
and in these messages between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen, they're saying things.
No, I'm saying the messages that are in question on the same date, just later in time. You said 4 o'clock.
They were at 4:30. This conversation continues from 1:27 p.m. through 4:49:56 p.m. when they're discussing these code words, Chris Angel, magician, disappear. The text of the third party are in the midst of these text messages also discussing magicians and making people disappear. And then Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen, the following days, reference the individuals that are connected to this third party.
Is that the one at 17? I'm sorry, 717 at 445? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes, ma'am. On the third column, the first,
The fourth?
four text messages. And then the first text message in the fourth column. And then the last text message in the second column, and the entire first column.
Oh,
Anything further?
that hurt my stomach.
No, Your Honor.
All right, I'll overrule the objection.
Detective Johns, I sort of did it for you. I went through these text messages. In these messages, Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen are discussing getting a hitman, not even being joking, and asking if Sue's husband is.
Come on. Come on.
Sorry. That would be Jay coming in as State's 18.
All right, I'll overrule the defense objection. J will be marked as State's Exhibit 18.
Come on.
All right, I'm sorry. You may proceed.
What's wrong with you?
And Detective Johns, we are speaking about older messages, but in the course of your investigation, this type of discussion continued between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen all the way up to Jared's death.
It does.
And in these messages, they used what you mentioned earlier to be another one of their favorite code words to describe Jared's killing, with the magic, magician, disappearing act of the single.
Correct.
So here we are at State's Exhibit now 18. These are text messages between Ms. Jensen and SL. And in these messages, Ms. Jensen is asking her if she knows someone, and she says, Shanna needs a guy. And what
Oh, she needs a
direction
guy.
does this conversation take?
Basically, Ms. Jensen's reaching out to Ms. Lee and stating, hey, Shanna needs a guy who does permanent disappearing acts.
Come on.
And she says that she needs a magician for stupid, referring to Mr. Bridegan, and asks if she knows.
She
anyone
needs
who
a
can
magician
basically
for
accomplish this.
stupid. Stupid is the best insult she can come up with for
And
him.
then the messages between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen following that conversation,
This
do they
doesn't
again
sound
reference
like a
the idea of
murderous
magic
woman.
or a magician?
Yes, they're initially talking about
Maybe
ways
she
to
is,
destroy Mr. Bridegan, in reference to feeding things.
Come on,
like
you can
a
do
heart
better than
attack.
stupid.
And then Shanna makes the comment that the best time for quote unquote magic is when they're amicable.
And
I
then
can't
here
read it
she
either
and
with
Ms.
the
Jensen are
rookie.
discussing the potential individuals they could contact, including someone named Matt.
Yeah, she makes reference to Matt, who she had talked to earlier, who was the trainer from the YMCA that she had the alleged affair with.
Okay, we don't need to get into that for purposes of this hearing. They're referring to someone named Nick, and she says between one of those four. So we have several people, Matt, Nick, the individual that she was speaking to Ms. Lee about, and they start referring to them by code names. So M, and then the next slide, which is
Hey,
there are 2 days of follow-up, July 21st and July 22nd. This is Ms. Gardner in the dark gray, and she is asking Ms. Jensen, do I legit ask Matt about people? Ms. Jensen says to wait. She says nothing, and then the next day, they're again asked, can I ask M today? And to see what H says. Now, these text messages, this is not the only contact that Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen are having. They're not just solely communicating by text, are they?
No, they're communicating via phone and other ways as well.
So in some of these text messages, are there points where the conversation ends and a phone call begins?
Correct.
And we're going to move on to some 2021 text messages in a moment, but I want to talk about how this kind of discussion continues with Ms. Gardner, not just with Ms. Jensen, but with other individuals. So these text messages go up through 2016. I want to discuss some of these individuals who came forward voluntarily to the Jackson Beach Police Department with evidence that Ms. Gardner had made similar comments to them. So let's begin in 2017. Did a relative of Jared Bridegan seek you out?
Yes, Justin Bridegan, who was Jared's brother, came to the police station. He had stated that he had also left the Church of Latter-day Saints. And when Ms. Gardner had found that out, she reached out to him and stated that she wanted to get the cousins together. And so they ended up going over to Mr. Bridegan's home and where they're letting the kids play. During that time period, Ms. Gardner made the statement to Justin that she at times was so angry with Jared that she considered hiring a hitman to take him out.
Did he believe her to be joking?
Who hasn't?
Did he say whether she said this in a joking manner?
He indicated that he thought that she was being very serious. However, due to the fact that they were divorced, and it was in the past tense context, that was something that he needed to alert the police, but he didn't believe her to be very serious about it.
And other than M and H and all these other individuals, did anybody come forward to you and say that Ms. Gardner attempted to solicit them to actually act as a hitman for Jared Bridegan?
Yes, during the time of their divorce, a tattoo shop owner had come forward by the name of Brad Bird. He stated that he had spent a lot of time with Ms. Gardner when she was getting her tattoos and some other things. And one night they had decided to go out for drinks afterwards. And during that time period, she stated that she needed someone to shut Jared up and asked him if he knew people who shut people up. He indicated that the way that he took that conversation.
I'm
was
always
that she was
looking for
looking
someone to
her
shut him up.
then husband.
And I also want to talk about an individual who came forward and provided a sworn statement to investigators regarding conversations she had with Ms. Gardner, specifically involving her husband, Mario Fernandez Saldana.
I believe the conversation happened in 2017. A friend and coworker of Ms. Gardner's had come forward and stated that this was around the time that she was just meeting Mario and they started dating. And she stated that Shanna told her that Mario had a military background and that he could take some guys, break into Jared's house, and take care of him. No one will ever know what happened.
Moving on to, now it's going to be State's Exhibit 10. These are text messages between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen in 2021. And this is a sample, but are there multiple text messages in which Ms. Gardner expresses her discouragement with the child custody battle she's having with Jared Bridegan?
Yes, there are lots of examples, both verbally and written, where she is very unhappy sharing the kids with Mr. Bridegan.
And she uses language, not just, I want to use the court system, but I'll never be happy so long as they're involved for a while.
Correct.
And then again, this is a pretty lengthy message to Ms. Jensen from Ms. Gardner. And in this, she expresses that she can't bear the thought of 9 more years of fighting for custody of her children. This is against State's Exhibit 10. So once you got this phone download from Ms. Jensen, before receiving these messages, had you spoken with Ms. Jensen about her knowledge of Shanna Gardner's involvement in the death of Jared Bridegan?
Yes, she came to the police station and we did interview her.
Did she mention any of this information when she spoke to you at the police station?
Not at all.
Did you serve her, or assist in serving her with a subpoena to testify in front of a grand jury in February of 2023?
We did.
Did she appear at the grand jury in your testimony?
She did.
When you gave her that subpoena, were you also monitoring Ms. Jensen's poll records and calls?
Yes, we were.
And when she got the subpoena for grand jury, did she contact Ms. Gardner?
She did.
And actually, when she was at the grand jury, was Ms. Gardner calling her?
Yes, she was.
And what has Ms. Jensen told you about her relationship with Ms. Gardner up and through the murder?
She said that they're very good friends, best friends, and that basically that Ms. Jensen is kind of Shanna's confidant.
And what did she express about her view of the Jared Bridegan versus Shanna Gardner history?
She is Team Shanna, according to her wording. She was not a fan of Jared Bridegan, and she has a lot of admiration for Ms. Gardner.
Okay. She described herself as Team Shanna even after Jared's homicide, and even after she was brought in to give testimony in grand jury and on other occasions involving Ms. Gardner's potential involvement.
That's correct.
Eventually, were you present when Ms. Jensen was interviewed in July into August of 2023?
I was.
And at that point, you had all these text messages that she had not disclosed to you.
That's correct.
And when you spoke to Ms. Jensen, with this evidence available, did Ms. Jensen give further testimony about Shanna Gardner's involvement in the planning and the homicide of Jared Bridegan?
She did.
I'm going to go through some of those statements. What did she tell you about her conversations, specifically with Mario Fernandez Saldana, about killing Jared Bridegan?
She relayed that there were instances where he was so close that he could touch him, and Jared didn't know it.
And just to be clear, Ms. Jensen said that Shanna disclosed to her things that Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez spoke about.
Correct.
Did she say that they had several conversations, one conversation?
There were multiple conversations over a multi-year period about Mario killing or finding people who could kill Jared.
Okay. And now we'll get into the specific statements. What did Ms. Jensen say Ms. Gardner disclosed to her about Mario and her plans to kill Jared Bridegan?
She made a statement about him that said having people, there were a motorcycle gang that lived behind his house that he could get to kill Jared. There were times where Mario was so close she could reach out and grab Jared and cause his death. And then just more ways that Mario was capable and the right person to take it for Jared.
Did she say specifically if there was a certain time or context that Mr. Fernandez Saldana would offer to do this for Ms. Gardner?
It was typically when she would be either upset with him or when she was upset more so at something that had happened between her and Jared in regards to the children. when she would be upset about some type of custody issue or some kind of disagreement they would be in, Maria's solution was always to offer to take care of Jared.
And did Kim Jensen tell you what Shanna took take care of, I mean in quotes, to me?
That would be to kill Jared Bridegan.
And you mentioned that Ms. Jensen disclosed that Shanna Gardner told her Mario was so close to Jared he could touch him. Did she explain what that meant? Did he actually follow him and was so close he could touch him?
Yes, there were times where he would watch his movements or follow him and try to develop patterns of what he did and where he went and what would be the best way to carry out some type of plan.
Did he call these, did he use any phrasing to describe these moments where he could have done something to Jared Bridegan?
Missed opportunities.
Here's some of the statements we talked about. Did Mario also disclose, or did Ms. Gardner disclose to Ms. Jensen that Mario Fernandez Saldana had followed him in a vehicle on a prior occasion?
Yes, that he had followed him from the house to back to St. John's County.
And what about to the hospital?
Don't recall that one.
Did Ms. Gardner disclose to Ms. Jensen why there was a delay or some kind of reason that this plan wasn't coming to fruition at the time period they're talking about?
There was some discussion between Ms. Gardner and Ms. Jensen that there was a delay in killing Jared, and that was Mario's excuse was, well, it's during COVID, no one leaves their house during COVID, so therefore I can't get a hold of him, he never leaves his house.
During this meeting with Ms. Jensen, did she advise you about Shanna Gardner's knowledge of Henry Tenon?
She did. She said that she had met Mr. Tenon, and that she knew that he owned the truck that we had released to the media that we were looking for.
And to be specific, Ms. Jensen told you that she had conversations with Shanna Gardner about Henry Tenon. Were those conversations before or after Henry Tenon was charged with the murder of Jared Bridegan?
Those were before.
So before Henry Tenon was publicly named as the individual involved in the murder of Jared Bridegan, Shanna Gardner and Kim Jensen had discussions about him.
That's correct.
And they had discussions about him owning a truck.
Owning the truck. On surveillance video that we found the night of the homicide, we identified a vehicle of interest that we believe was involved in the homicide, and that was in fact later proved to be the truck that Mr. Tenon owned.
And Ms. Jensen disclosed to you that Shanna Gardner had discussed this vehicle with her prior to Henry Tenon being arrested for murder, or knowledge that that truck belonged to him being public.
Correct.
I want to talk lastly regarding Ms. Jensen's disclosures at this meeting about what she told you about a trip to Hawaii. The Gardner family, can you describe for the court this annual kind of vacation that they were doing to Hawaii?
They have an annual family trip where they all go to Hawaii, and would appear to include all the parents, all the children, and their spouses and grandchildren.
And was there a trip to Hawaii in 2022 prior to the murder of Jared Bridegan?
There was a trip to Hawaii approximately a week before the murder.
And did Shanna Gardner and Mario Fernandez Saldana go on that trip to Hawaii?
They did.
And did they return approximately,
About 4 days before the murder.
so around February 12th, 2022?
Correct.
And did Ms. Jensen describe for you a conversation that Shanna Gardner told her she had with Mario Fernandez Saldana in the week before Jared was killed?
The text messages between the two of them would indicate that their conversation had to do with the fact that Shanna was frustrated with the marriage and that she was going to call it off with him, and that they had discussed that and that they were starting plans to do that. However, later she indicated that during that time frame, Mario stated to Shanna that Mario was going to in fact kill Jared, and that if she didn't want it to happen, she'd speak up and say it now.
Ms. Jensen told you this, and obviously with the testimony of Henry Tenon, that Mario Fernandez came to him the day of the homicide on October 16th, saying he needed to do this now to save his marriage.
Correct.
Ms. Gardner never mentioned any of this information to you when she sat down with you on April 15th, 2022.
No.
Is this information that would have been of interest to you as the investigator into the murder of Jared Bridegan?
Absolutely.
And instead, she actually gave you other theories that could send you down a wild goose chase.
Correct.
And I anticipate that when you're cross-examined, or when defense makes argument, there will be some indication that Ms. Gardner said no or didn't really know Mario was serious about doing this. So I want to talk to you about her actions and some of your investigation into her actions following the death of Jared Bridegan. So start with the interviews you did with Mr. Fernandez Saldana and Ms. Gardner in March and April of 2022. Did you also do recorded interviews with Ms. Gardner's children, biological children with Gardner and Bridegan, who are referred to as LB and AB.
We did not specifically do those interviews, however, the child protection team at the University of Florida did.
And I know the court's familiar, but can you explain why it is that you all send children to the child protection team instead of doing interviews yourself?
We generally do not interview anyone under the age of 13. We would send them to a team that includes child psychologists or other trained individuals in a non-threatening, non-traumatic environment.
Hey,
to
what's
conduct
with that?
interviews.
And did AB and LB come to the child protection team and give a recorded forensic interview with the child experts?
Yes, I did.
Do you recall around the date of those interviews?
Would have been a day or two after I had my initial interview with Shanna.
So sometime in early March of 2022.
Correct.
During the interviews with LB and AB, you obviously got an accounting from them of where everyone was in the home that night. Did you note discrepancies between their interviews and what Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez Saldana had told you?
They both, Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez stated that he was sleeping due to having had a bad headache and taking some medication. Both of the kids indicated that they thought that Mario was in his gaming room. But it was, they later said that they never actually saw him. It was just that his game console was actively playing, so they just assumed that that's where he was at.
And Henry Tenon advised in his sworn statement that Mario Fernandez actually was not at home playing video games or lying on the couch. He was driving the vehicle to the homicide scene to commit his murder.
That's correct.
So these children are brought to CPT to get this interview. Did Ms. Gardner accompany them?
Yes, you did.
Did Mr. Fernandez Saldana accompany them?
No, in fact, during one of the interviews, one of the children made a utterance that Mario was on his way to Canada with some friends to go camping.
And did you later get records, financial, call detail records, cell site location data to figure out if that was true or not?
We did. We got his financial records and we got his cell site data that showed that he essentially was making his way from Jacksonville to Brunswick, North Carolina, not to Pennsylvania.
Did he go camping?
He did not go camping.
You're right.
Was, based on your investigation,
Yeah.
you described to the court what the nature of this trip was. Was it pre-planned, vacation, business?
I couldn't tell you what the nature of the trip was, other than the fact that he made surprise visits to some people that he barely knew, and he purchased
All right.
tickets on the way. Once he got past North Carolina to Pennsylvania,
Okay, don't
he was
blame me.
making hotel reservations as he was driving, so it was not a planned trip.
I was helping you.
And while he's making this unplanned trip up to Canada, presumably, was he in contact with Ms. Gardner by phone?
Yes, he was.
And at some point, did he cease contact with Ms. Gardner?
He was in contact with her essentially until the CPT interviews were done, and then he essentially turned around and came back home.
Moving to August of 2022. This was a key point in your investigation, Dr. Exec.
Yes,
What happened August 18, 2022?
Mr. Tenon was arrested.
And up until that point, Henry Tenon was not on anyone's radar, so to speak, until probably when?
I would say maybe a few months prior to him being arrested.
And in your investigation, what was the relationship you uncovered of Henry Tenon to Mario Fernandez Saldana and Shanna Gardner?
He lived in one of their rental
You
properties.
thought
And who
Or
was the owner
a
and
kangaroo?
manager of those
No.
properties?
I'm not sure legally it was
You
Mario.
don't just
Fernandez
jump
or,
by.
Their LLC, but he wanted to.
That's lame.
And were you able to identify
Yeah.
Henry Tenon as a person of interest in the murder?
They would get emus though.
Yes.
Once you did
Just
that,
check
did you, in conjunction with the Jacksonville Sheriff's Office, arrest Henry Tenon on unrelated charges?
Yes, we essentially formed a plan where we would arrest him once he started driving. He's a habitual traffic offender, and that plan was executed. He was taken into custody.
Oh,
How
you just
people
arrested
are to
for
understand,
something
is this like
else.
a common technique that law enforcement does when they're investigating a crime?
Yes, it is.
Does it provide the opportunity to interview somebody who's a potential subject or person of interest?
It does.
Does it present the opportunity to obtain leads and further evidence into that person?
Yes.
Yeah.
So when you arrested Henry Tenon on April 18, 2022, had his name been publicly released anywhere as a person of interest?
Not at all. No.
No.
August of 18, 2022. Had you spoken to Mario Fernandez Saldana or to Shanna Gardner about this person, or asked them any questions, or interviewed them about Henry Tenon?
No.
Not at all.
So we just dragged him in on a traffic
When Henry
offense.
Tenon was arrested, was he still living at that home?
But we had no
Run
intention of
just
dragging
by
him in for
first
anything
choice
other than
homeland policy.
hit.
Yes, he was.
When he was arrested, what did your investigation uncover about the activity between Mario Fernandez Saldana
Slimy
and Shanna Gardner
cops.
when their tenant was arrested on a driving charge.
Right after he was arrested, the other gentleman who was living there used an associate's phone as to not be detected to call Mr. Fernandez.
And how do you know that?
He admitted to doing that.
He told you he used someone else's phone to contact Mario Fernandez Saldana to tell him Henry Tenon was arrested.
That's correct.
What did Mario Fernandez Saldana do?
This started a flurry of calls between Ms. Gardner and Mr. Fernandez. And then Ms. Gardner then reached out to her attorney as well as her PR firm.
Okay. And I have
Oh,
here
he called
a
her attorney.
timeline of
Guilty.
relevant calls for purposes of this hearing for that date, August 18, 2022.
That's correct.
MF means Mario Fernandez.
Correct.
Okay. It says here that Ms. Gardner was speaking with someone named Christopher Thomas of the Intrepid Group and someone named Linda Luchetti. Do you know who these individuals are?
I do.
And who are they?
Christopher Thomas is the owner or president of the Intrepid Group, and Linda Luchetti is a media relations consultant that often works with Mr. Thomas.
What's
In the course of your investigation, did you identify these individuals as having been retained
That
by
kind
Ms.
of rubs me
Gardner,
the wrong way.
during the course of this investigation to sort of help her with her PR?
Yes, that's correct.
Why?
And Intrepid Group.
I don't know, he
and
just seems
Luchetti are
sus.
based out of Salt Lake City, Utah.
That's correct.
And do they have some affiliation with Ms. Gardner's mother's company?
I believe one or both of them had done some work for Stampin Up, and they were offering their
Stampin' Up,
services
great
pro bono
publicity.
to Ms. Gardner.
This trial is
What was
sponsored by
significant to you
Stampin'
about
Up.
This type of contact on this date.
I mean, the
Please
significance to me
clarify.
is your tenant,
Stadipah.
who would likely say that you had no clue who was involved in this, was arrested for, you didn't know what charges at the time, yet you felt the need to alert your
This is a trial,
attorney and
David.
media consultants that your tenant of your rental property was arrested.
For a driving and suspended license charge.
Correct.
Did you make attempts to speak to Christopher Thomas and Linda Luchetti and other members of the Intrepid PR crisis management firm?
Myself and one of my colleagues flew to Utah and attempted to speak with them, and they avoided us.
Can you be more specific about your attempts and your avoidance?
Well, Ms. Luchetti
Hey,
was running frantically
Don't
around
bite
her
me.
house as to hide
Sorry.
so that I could see that
Ah.
she was in her house. Mr. Thomas was not at his office, he went to his residence, and he had his wife answer the door a couple times to avoid taking him to jail.
Were you eventually able to receive evidence
shut up,
and
David.
statements from Chris Thomas of the Intrepid Group after he retained a criminal defense attorney?
Yes, I just said he stated, or he stated he hired an attorney.
I haven't
and
seen
contacted
by
the
it.
attorney.
The hell is such a tease?
And we'll get to.
yeah,
God.
well, we got to get through the direct first.
No.
What's been
And we
dangled
don't
it.
watch direct, and the cross will make no sense.
She dangled a sexy Hispanic good talking lawyer in front of me.
It says, I don't
Just
want
left
anyone
me
to know,
hanging.
and Ms. Jensen says, I'm not.
Too bad,
Can you
you have to watch
describe
tomorrow.
the context of these text messages?
Gosh.
I believe this was like a lunch
Thank
date
God
that was
John
coming
isn't
up, and
here.
they did not want anyone to know that their tenant had been arrested at that
It's a
time.
bond hearing, and
And this
yeah,
text is from the date
you're
that
wrong,
the
Dali. It's a bond
Yes,
hearing.
that's correct.
Whatever legal
States Exhibit
proceeding this
Exhibit
is,
11 are these the text messages
whatever
that
of the
were
many
turned over by
proceedings
Intrepid
that
PR?
are legal, we watch.
Yes.
Okay, and this highlighted number, does that phone number belong to the associate of the Intrepid PR Group?
Okay, so I've just looked ahead, and we are, I don't know, maybe 10, 15, 20
Was
minutes
there one person
away
who wasn't
from
willing to
cross,
speak to you when you went to Utah?
and Baez
There
does the
was.
cross.
And
Wait, how
that
long
wasn't
until
her name, you
cross?
describe who she is.
She was
Quite a
a
while.
junior level social
Like-
media manager at.
Maybe an hour and a half.
And she don't work for them
Something
on
like that.
the trip to Utah.
So no, we're not doing it
What
all
did she
today.
tell you about
In fact,
contact
we're
between
shutting up shop for today, so I'm
Intrepid
gonna take
Group
my mum
and their
out.
other PR associates at the time, and
Um,
Gardner on the state?
As soon as Ms. Gardner found out that their tenant had been arrested, she
In fact, it's longer than that, because if I just here, I'll just get rid of this thing. Noink, noink. See this? So we are an hour and 35 minutes in, and it goes for, see, like there's Mr. Jose down there talking, crossing, talking, crossing, crossing. Look at all the Jose. Look at all the Jose.
Ooh,
Jose.
You get to see that sweet Hispanic ass for a while.
Well, yeah, he does. Unfortunately, we see him from the back a fair bit, but you know, he's quite Hispanic. Got quite a bit of Hispanic ass going on. Okay,
Not
so
sure
there's
what makes an ass Hispanic, but okay.
no, me neither. So yeah, they argue for quite a bit. Look at that. Check it out. So we've got hours of Jose. Oh, then they leave. People leave. Oh, there's a break. Is there a break? Oops. Oh, I didn't want to go forward. Right. So yeah, is there a break? Oh, there's another witness. Yeah, okay, so there'll be a witness and there'll be more cross. Oh, then another dude does cross. So Jose does the big long cross, and then some other dude does cross. Yeah, okay. So we've got a fair bit to go. Cool. Funeral potatoes and casserole.
Word of the day.
Yeah, and magic making him go away. And she called him stupid. That's harsh. That's a
I
burn.
mean-
Look,
I mean, I've called my ex worse than that, so
look, I call you worse
that's
daily.
true. She
Yeah.
does, especially behind my
Mhm.
back.
Behind his back in text
Apparently,
messages.
I just
and
found out the other
screenshots.
day. I know.
Yeah, apparently
But
there's screenshots.
I haven't
of me-
seen them, but
No, there's screenshots of me bad mouthing Dali somewhere. Apparently. Oh dear. Yeah, but yeah, the screenshots. They're receipts. They're
yes,
receipts.
just have to find them.
Sal X allows nudity now. What is that an invitation or a
Ooh.
challenge?
I'm gonna send you some dick pics.
Oh dear. Oh no! Do not get out the hard drive. No hard drive.
Yeah, I already
No.
accidentally sent Hella some.
No, you didn't accidentally send them to
No,
me.
I actually did. I did not realize there were dick pics in there. I would have warned you. I was doing what Mark Jensen did to his wife.
It's all right. It's all right.
Just sliding them in there for her to find randomly.
It's all right. I've seen worse or better.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm a
Both.
big girl. What's this about Casey Anthony? I didn't watch the Casey Anthony trial, but I did watch the William Husel trial, and Diane did most of the work. Interesting.
She did a lot of the work in
Yeah.
the Matthew Moore trial. She is a phenomenal lawyer.
And Bayes did a great job in William Husel trial. Yes. Hey, Slay, but
Yeah.
thank you for being over on Rumble. Yeah, I don't exactly have a great following on Rumble. But you know, some people watch it, rewatch it. I got weirdly more people over there than I thought, but you never know. I think that they might not be real. Same with Twitter. Goodness knows what's going on with Twitter. Who is this Mike Jensen? Oh goodness me! Like, go and watch.
I think he knows.
Derby on Saturday. Oh, you don't know, Flash fan. Okay, you do know. Peen screenshots like without words. Yeah, those sorts of ones. The ones.
No,
where,
it was like a 300-page PowerPoint that the jury got to see.
Yeah, that.
And the last 20 pages had the dick pics, and I didn't like scroll to the end because I was so excited. I got this from a FOIA request. I was like, "Hello, look at this!" And
Yeah, it's like it's in your email, and I'm like,
Hella
great.
scanned forward to the end, and she's like, "Rah."
I wasn't like, rah. I was just like, thanks, Dolly.
Oh my!
That much appreciated. Thanks for that. So Sal accidentally
welcome.
sent his own, and he forgot which file to store his and
Yeah.
Jensen's in. Scarred for life. Scarred for life.
Oh, you wish.
Yeah, I know. I know who Mike Jensen's in. You're just being a troll with about 56 followers. I'm on Rumble with about 50. Oh yeah. No, I have just started streaming out to different platforms because you never know what's going to happen to YouTube. It could just get pulled out from underneath you, right, David? Right, David? Yeah. So David's got a couple of channels. Actually, he's got more than I thought. Lego Law, MLS God of Law. He's got the shipping rights one, and God knows what else. Like MLS God of Feet Porn. Who knows what else? Anyway, like and subscribe.
Oh, whoops! What I did
to us? Why did you do that?
I didn't mean to. God. I was trying to do a joke, like you said, David feet porn. So then I was like loudly typing on my keyboard to get there. It was a joke.
No, not okay. Was this the first Mark Jensen trial that had the written
Yeah.
message? Oh
For
yeah, yeah,
Shredder.
yeah, Shredder, yeah. I heard your name. Yeah. All we have to do is say your name and you're here. Say my name, say my name. All right, and Mona, so Pizian, Peen sounds like my kind of thing. You're the one who said the other day that you didn't know about the Jacob's ladder. And you know what? I know you know about the Jacob's ladder. I'm onto you, Mona. Onto you. Just you watch out. I'm clever. Oh, Mona. I had several channels that you guys are not in the mix on. I do have a double life. I think you've got more than a double life, personally. I think that Treehouse
Triple life?
doubles for all sorts of things.
Treehouse orgies? Oh my God, Snivels.
Classic. You know what, Snivels? This is not so divisive anymore.
Ironic.
No.
Now
Ironic.
Rokeda gets the beard.
That was that was a month ago. That's so last month. Like that's so last month. Now there's something else that's driving a bit of a wedge through everybody. But it's not. I don't even think it's Nick's fault. I just think that people are people. You know,
Yeah,
like Nick
drama.
goes and gets arrested, and then the drama. People make the drama. Anyway, that's all interesting. But yeah, people are blocking people and hating on people, and kind of similar to what happened with that Helsing. But you know, yeah, Symbols, you need a Nick pick now. A Nick pick.
I think there was one. I'll do it tomorrow if I remember.
Oh, don't be nose guarding now. Don't be nose guarding. That's a funny thing. Felted. So felted. All right, that's it. Ending up. I'm gonna go take my mum out and look after her.
Okay.
She's doing pretty good.
Good.
She's doing pretty good. She's cleaned her house up. She's actually like made it all bright and sunny, and she's moved stuff around. Having a good old time. So we'll see. But thank you everyone for being here. Yeah, I might keep going with this. Not I usually do a different thing every day, but I think it's best to just like keep at it and not lose our train of thought with because we're on direct at the moment, and when we get to cross, which is going to be cool, I want to be remembering what was just on direct. So yeah, tomorrow we'll run the same thing.
Okay.
So I'll see you all guys tomorrow. And you're going to do Ali tomorrow?
Yep. Yeah, 5
Cool.
o'clock.
Right.
It's crazy.
Cool. So yeah, same lineup tomorrow. So Ali at 5, and then we'll do 6:30 Eastern for not the rest of this. We'll probably get through cross with Jose Baez tomorrow.
Yeah.
See you guys tomorrow.
Reach around.
Later. Hang on. Wait. We need a song. We need music. And today I'm going to go with Helen's reggaeton. No, Helen's reggaeton.
She's got that fire. Her name is like a wire. Sparks fly when she speaks. The words, they're so unique. I'll say exceptional 3-2. Excited, your turn. She's got the evidence. No need for clearance. Her voice, it's like a